Hello, BookTube. It's Thursday, and that must mean Forgotten Poets. Well, I was looking at my shelf to figure out who to do next, and I saw this book that I'd sort of forgotten I'd had. I haven't even read it, so I'm dealing now with a poet that I haven't really read, other than picking this up and reading little snippets out of it. It is called A Flaming Terrapin, and it's written by Roy Campbell. Now, Roy Campbell was born Ignatius Royston Dunichi Campbell, October 2nd, 1901, in Durban, South Africa. And he died in a car accident April 23rd in Setúbal, Portugal. Now, I'd not heard of this poet before. This is an interesting book. It was originally it's his actually first book. It's a sort of a it's a long poem. So it's not a collection of poetries. It's poetry. It's like a 90-page sustained poem. And let's see here. This is the third impression, 1926, but the original edition, it was originally published in 1924. And there's a bookseller receipt in it, which is kind of interesting. And it looks like the bookseller was Clark's Bookshop, Cape Town, obviously South Africa. And it looks like that was done uh, December 2nd, possibly. Does it look at a 56 or not sure? No. Not sure. There's several dates on here, but that's not a date. But it lists here, which is kind of funny because it says 1926, original cloth backed boards. This is this is not cloth. This is paper covered boards. So there's a bookseller that didn't know um, what the material the book was made out of. Now, even the spine here, which um, well, the spine made of it, and maybe that's what he says, cloth backed, because they always say cloth. So maybe, yeah, maybe that is correct. It has a little paper label. But anyway, let's get back to Roy Campbell rather than disparaging the quality of this book. Um, he went to university at Oxford University, and he started getting sort of mixed up, and he was enamored by the Bohemian group in London, and he actually eventually sort of was involved well with the Bloomsbury group, but he got disillusioned by them. He thought they were pompous and had superior attitude, and he lampooned them in a poem or two. He later was a Franco supporter during the Spanish Civil War, which really sort of damaged his reputation because he was thought of as a fascist, and that haunted him, I think, for most of his life, and it hurt his reputation. Um, Edith Sitwell and other poets thought he was basically the best poet, sort of interwar poet. But he had a breaking with Edith Sitwell because he found out his wife was having a lesbian affair with Edith Sitwell, and that sort of apparently changed sort of his direction of life. So his biography says he did not. He was with the Inklings for a little while, but C.S. Lewis did not care for him and lampooned him and other poets in a poem called something to do Pilgrim's Regress, I think it was, rather than Progress. Um, but he did join with other writers, other white South African writers, in denouncing apartheid. And then, as I say, he died April 23rd, in 1957, in Portugal, as from a results of a car accident. Now, I don't know too much else about him. Like I say, I haven't read this, but I was perusing it, and I kind of liked it. Like, I opened up, and I'll just read little bits of it to give you a flavor. Um, and it looks like it's a sort of creational story, possibly throughout. I even looked to see if I could get like an outline of it, and I didn't spend too much time looking material up here. But it's part one. Material earth stirs redly from beneath. Her blue sea blanket and her quilt of sky. A giant and a dominie of from the sheath and the chrysalis of darkness till we spy her vast barbaric haunches furried with trees. Stretched on the continents and see her hair combed in a surf of fire along the breeze to curl about the dim sierras where faint snow peaks catch the sun's far swivel beams. And I just kind of like this stuff. There was another. I opened up to another section here that I kind of liked. Yeah. Now from their frosty fetters bursting free, to dare once more the terrors of the sea, the Ark and her grim pilot churns the foam, crested the waves and hoisted sail for home. Fierce currents trailed her in their rustling train, swishing their silver skirts along the main, and the grim night, as like proud queens they swayed, re-echoed with the great frou-frou they made. Northward she seethed before the rising gales, and with the starlight frosted in her sails, forth like shivering marsh fire flew to skim with dancing flame the horizon's rim. Um, yeah, it's like it goes on. Like I say, I don't know the full extent of this, so this is a bit of one off. Usually, I pick writers or poets that I've at least read something about, but this was a bit of a. I'm not sure how this got sort of lost and not read, because I must have bought this about 5-6 years ago when I was collecting a lot of poetry, mostly from little a charity shop that was here that had a whole floor of books, and they'd have two bookcases sort of waist high, about 2.5 feet wide each, and I think there was like 3 or 4 shelves in each one, and they were back to back. And occasionally they would get like a whole bunch of little slim volumes of poetry like this from the 20s and 30s, and and they were like 50p a pound. And when I was working, I had some money, I just bought everything that was there, because anything that looked interesting. So so there it is. Roy Campbell, The Flaming Terrapin. And I'll be back next week. Thank you, BookTube.